Dad's local sport podcast, where our skills are questionable.
But our spirit is unstoppable.
I'm your host, Michael Hughes, with our co-host.
Jonathan Parker.
And we want to start every show like we do every night and thank our sponsors. We want to thank Kobe McKinney for being our title sponsor once again this year with Underwood Realty. So for all your realty needs, go see Kobe down at Underwood Realty.
Want to thank Be the Gift and hashtag Hollies for our Player of the Week segment.
And then Infinity Promotions for all of our backdrops and our apparel and our tablecloth that we use. Any kind of promotional needs you might need, go see Infinity Promotions.
And then, of course, our coaches segment is a new sponsor, which is sponsored by Anthony Hackett, our Farm Bureau agent out of Macon County, who shares your commitment to protecting your family's future. Farm Bureau offers tailored auto, home, and life insurance coverage to meet your budgetary needs. For a quote that provides the peace of mind you and your neighbors deserve, please visit the website or contact Anthony at 615 666 4025. And we certainly appreciate Anthony jumping on and being a sponsor for our coaches segment. Great guy, great individual, and will do you right with your insurance.
Yep. And Jonathan, high school football is winding down, right? This is the last week of high school football. All games are done. Now we start our whole new season over, right? And we talked about this last week where, it went so fast, right? We seemed like we was here early on in the year this year and talking about our preseason game in the Jamboree. And now here we are, week one of the TSSAA playoffs.
Absolutely. And it's just amazing how quickly it goes by. We sit around, of course, you and I both, love baseball and it's a long, baseball takes a long time. It starts in the spring and goes till, we just had the World Series in last night, but, football's the one that everybody waits on. And we get so excited. We're so amped up to start the season. And then bam, we turn around twice and it seems like the season's over. And, again, congratulations to, our local Gornsville Tigers on winning the region, going 10-0. And again, congratulations to Smith County for doubling their win total from last year and still making the playoffs, still fighting. So again, it's crazy to think that the season's over, but now it's second season time, and now the quote unquote go 1-0 each week is intact.
And you're right. Congratulations to the Tigers for going 10-0. And no matter what region you play in or what competition you face, you going 10-0. 10-0 in a regular season of high school football is a really good season.
That's exactly right. And you look up and down, different classifications, and you see several 10-0 teams, but it's difficult. It's difficult to do that in this day and age of football.
Yeah, and we're going to bounce around the guys tonight's show. We're going to have Matt Dyer, of course, for Smith County High School football head coach. And then we're actually later on the show, we're going to have Nick Bassell on, who is a state tournament head coach now for the Smith County Lady Owls soccer team. First time, I think, in program history for them ever going to the state championship.
Yeah, and we touched base on it last week. There are a lot of athletic programs that we have in our county, both at Smith County and Gordonsville, that are doing some outstanding things. You got Coach Leslie and his volleyball team. We hope to have him on as well. They came runner up in the state tournament. Our soccer team goes down, competes in the state. So again, like we said last week, there's a lot of athletes that need a lot of praise right now in this county.
Yeah, we're going to have all these guys on. We want to talk to all these coaches, right? We want this show to be about all the coaches from both programs. There's a lot. Like you said, there's a lot of student athletes in this county that need to be recognized, and that's what we want to do. Well, let's move into our Dugout Dads. Did last week of our Dugout Dads weekly pick'em competition. We appreciate everybody that's entered there this year. We've had it for, I think, 9 weeks now, Jonathan, if I'm not mistaken, either 8 or 9 weeks.
8 weeks. 8 weeks.
We've had it. We appreciate everybody that entered this year. Something fun, and we can't wait to build on this next year and even have more participation. We're going to move it even a little bit more farther outside the county next year to get a little more participation in it. But this week's winner is Trace McGuire. Trace is, of course, my son-in-law, but Trace has won this week. He went 7-3 and correctly got the Titan score, just stayed under the total Titan score there to win this week's $20 Amazon gift card, and then puts him in the drawing, which we'll do either next week or the week after, where they'll be for the $100 gift card, Jonathan, we talked about when we first started this.
Well, and Michael, I'm thinking about, instead of doing it in a couple of weeks, I think we do it, our last show where we preview the state championship games. That'll be our last show of the semester. We're going to try to do a couple of few things in 2026 where we may broadcast a couple of basketball games. So stay tuned for that, because that may be our student section week in December, where like we did last year, where we had some gifts that we give away. So I think we go ahead and make that our giveaway for our $100 gift certificate.
And this week, for the weekly pickers that we have every week, I think I actually took my first win in 8 weeks this week. I went 7-3, and then once again stayed under the Titans total score there. And actually, my first win, out of 8 weeks. So I'm actually pretty tickled to go out as a winner.
Well, you tied. You tied me. I went 7-3 too. The Titans scored just the kind of the defensive and
at the end of the day,
and
I still won.
You did. You did.
But we'll move over, and like I say, we appreciate everybody's done that. What a fun time we've had doing that this year.
Yes.
We can't wait to do it again next year. We may even try to partner with the Carthage School Year and do a little more interesting things with that next year, and have real good fun with that. But Jonathan, we'll move over and we'll talk about this week's matchup. Right, it's the most anticipated matchup of the year, that we've had for a long time. It's always week 1 that you talk about the Smith County Gordonsville game. Well, this year it's week 10, week 11 for some folks, where we hoped going into it would be a region championship game. It was kind of billed like that, but it really wasn't a region championship game. Smith County had to win, then had to have some help to be number 1 overall in the conference, in the region. But Gordonsville does come in; they take care of business. It started out a pretty hard fought ball game, right? You felt like it could be one of those games. It's a region game. All these kids know each other. It's in county rivalry matchup, and as you talked about earlier that day, that here's where stuff comes out of kids that they don't know they have, right? Because they're going against their friends, and it goes into that, and it started out that way, but then Gordonsville kind of you saw Gordonsville just keep on doing what they do. They've done it all year long. They wear down opponents, and at the end, kind of just took over and won the game pretty easily.
Right. Well, and you look, what a wonderful atmosphere, that you could just feel the electricity in the stadium. It was packed from, pillar to post. And, for me, I felt like Gordonsville played a little tight in that ball game in the first half. And Smith County actually, had a chance to go down and make it, I believe, a 9-7 ball game. And they turned the ball over on downs on about the 30-yard line. That really changed the aspect of that ball game, in my opinion, because Gordonsville goes down and scores in the first half to make it 15-0. Where Smith County had a chance to really punch it in right there, make it 9-7, and who knows what the outcome would be after that, because Gordonsville kind of imposed their will in the second half, and their defensive and offensive front was just really dominating for me from what I witnessed. But again, an electric atmosphere, and congratulations to Gordonsville on that victory. And they continue rolling that ship down the water.
And I tell you what, though, you think about high school football and the atmosphere that you want, and that was there in the jungle Friday night, because I looked, I watched it online here at the house, and I know you was there live, but it looked like one of the bigger crowds we've had in the last few years.
Yes.
It looked like to me, and the crowd was really into it, and that's what you want, especially in small town high school football. That's the atmosphere that you want, and that's what you got Friday night.
Well, and as well as I do, it's the inter-county, rivalry. It's gonna always bring that, regardless if they're 0-9, 9-0, 5 it doesn't matter what the records are. You're gonna throw those out the window. Everybody's, lock the door, close the blinds. Everybody's gonna be there on Friday night, and they showed up this past Thursday night.
Yes, Thursday night, correct. And we'll talk to Coach Matt Dyer about all this when he comes on here after a while, but we'll go through and get his insights about how he felt the game went, and what he's got to correct to go into next week. So speaking of next week, Smith County does travel to Bledsoe County for their first round matchup. Gordonsville will host York for their first round matchup next week. But if Gordonsville wins, they get home field advantage for the first 2 rounds.
Yes, and that's huge, because you look at the bracket, and that's currently what I'm doing. You look, Gordonsville, they play a 1-9 York team, and then they play the winner of Oneida and West Green. Well, you know as well as I do, when you start traveling east, it gets a little different with time change and everything. So having those first two automatic home playoff games is going to be real big for Gornsville. You know, you look at York's schedule; it's not that impressive. Other than this past uh, Thursday night, they play Marion County, who won that side's region, and they play them to a 21-14 ball game. I wasn't there; don't know what it was about, but you look up and down York's schedule and all you see are L's except the one win that they have against Monterey. They've, pretty consistently given up roughly, averaging looks like 30 points a game. But again, they played Bledsoe County to a close game. So uh, if I'm Gornsville, I'm not overlooking this York football team because they typically always are pretty good up front, pretty stout. So look for them to bring it this coming Friday night.
Well, and here's one thing that people, if you've ever played a York Fenchurch County team, they're going to hit you in the mouth. They're going to be tough, hard nosed. They run the single wing offense. That's what they do. Just like the Trousdale County team who does the exact same kind of offense. They're going to come in ready to go. I'm just not sure they have the talent that they graduated a lot of kids out from that run they had last year. I'm not sure they have the talent to keep going from winning the first round.
Well, and you look at Gornsville. Gornsville has a four-headed monster in the backfield with Skurlock, Jamario, Kemrick Stott, Jay, and Booker. I mean, they're going to be hard to stop because if one's not going, they're going to put the next one in, and if he's not going, they're just going to rotate and find that one person that's going to get it going that night that's producing.
And you look defensively for the Tigers right now. They're playing pretty sound defense. You got Brooks Stafford, who's having a pretty last 2 or 3 weeks in a row that Brooks has played really good in the defensive secondary for Gornsville. But up front is where Gornsville's really setting the tone in the game, where they're really taking control early at the line of scrimmage, and really teams having to be anything to move the ball really against them.
Right. And you look, I think maybe Cannon County was the last team to really put some yardage on Gornsville. And you look over the last 3 or 4 weeks, you want to be trending in the right direction. You want to be getting better each and every game. And if I'm not mistaken, their last 4 ball games, they've only given up an average of around 100 yards a game. And if you can do that starting next week for the next 4 or 5 weeks, you're going to find yourself in Chattanooga.
You are. And, I looked at when I was watching the DTC broadcast, and they showed Gornsville's schedule throughout the year. And if they're not averaging 30, 35 points a game, I'd be mistaken because they had a lot of 40s on that, right?
Yes.
So I look for Gornsville to take care of business against York Friday night. But then you flip over to the Smith County side. You look at how Smith County games went against Gornsville Friday or Thursday night. They started out rough. They had in the middle where they couldn't move the ball really well. And then they ended their game with a really, really good offensive drive, right? And we'll talk to Coach Dyer about this here in just a little while. But, that's the kind of positive you need to move over into this week. And you hope that, Smith County rights the ship going to Bledsoe County. And Bledsoe plays in a pretty tough region there with Marion County and a couple of those teams, so we'll see how that goes.
And you look at Bledsoe County, they're 8-2. They went 3-1 in the region. They've scored 235 points and they've only given up 153. And, some of their losses are against some tougher competition. They lost to a higher seeded or higher classification, Sequatchie County. They lost to Whitwell. And then, of course, their only region loss was to Marion County. And that was back the first of the 1st of October, and that was a close ball game, 15-3. But looking up and down their schedule, they're scoring 26-ish points a game. So Smith County is going to have to go up there to Pikeville, this coming Friday night, and they're going to have to show up and play ball because they're going to be playing against a team that scores points just much like they have all season.
Coach Dyer's already here, so we'll go ahead and bring Coach Dyer in, and we'll go ahead and start talking about Smith County High School football, and we'll let Coach Dyer come on in. Coach, how's it going tonight?
Hey guys, y'all doing all right?
Good. How are you?
It's been a few.
I'm doing well.
It's been a few weeks since we had you on, and we had fall break, and then we had other issues to come up last week. But hey, glad to have you back here, and glad to talk Smith County High School football with you.
Yeah, shoot, yeah, man. Glad to be back. I was having withdrawals not being able to come on here, man. I was like, I enjoy it so much. Daggone it.
So, Coach, we go in and we look at we had a Thursday night matchup with Gornsville this week, a region foe. Now we talked about it early in the preseason that we're going into this game. and we hoping it was for the region championship, and it could have been right.
Yeah.
It could have flipped around where you guys could have took number one if
Yeah.
certain things would have happened. But
Yeah.
you go in, Gornsville comes out on top, 29-7. But we still see flashes of what you guys can become. We've just not put together a complete game in the last couple of weeks.
Oh, we had, especially defensively. During our coaches meeting today, our secondary probably had one of their better games of the season, just being where they were supposed to be, making plays when they had chances to make plays. We didn't give up anything downfield. We didn't give up any big explosive play outside of maybe a 15 or a 20-yard run here or there. And that's the thing with their offense. They've had a lot of big explosive plays. Gornsville has throughout this year, whether in the pass game or run game. When you go back in all their films, they've got a handful of 50, 60, 80-yard plays through every game. And it's mostly because of how well they run their offense. They get secondaries, eyes in the backfield, paying attention to all that motion, or they just get the ball to their athletes in space, just a simple bubble here, break a tackle, outrun everybody else. But our secondary played one of their better games. Guys like Cole Hackett, Gage Gibbs, Walker Hackett, Stephen Martin, Landon Blevins, they had a really good game. And some of our defensive front guys played very well. Daniel Bain and Colt Shoemake probably had one of their best games of the year, sitting there holding down the edge. We lost a few one-on-ones up front, couldn't get off some blocks here or there. But for the most part, we handled their explosive plays, and we told them all week, guys, like make them huddle up. Make them continue to run their offense. Make them get impatient, and our guys did that. They made them huddle up play after play. Now we just couldn't get stops when we needed to. I think they were 8 of 12 on third down and 4 of 5 on fourth down. And you can't have those type of numbers on defense and expect to be successful, especially if you're not scoring points on offense. And that was our big thing. We couldn't get anything really going offensively. Second week of not having Riley in, Landon kind of having the offense, and still a lot of mental errors, whether it's running the wrong route or going right when we should have gone left, or just little simple things where our offensive line runs 46, which is counter to the right, and our backfield runs counter to the left. Just silly things like that just have held us back all year, where you say doing the little things right or doing the little things wrong, and we're still doing a lot of little things wrong. But there's, like you said, there's still silver linings here and there. We've yet to put together a full, complete fourth quarter game, but we're a series here and a series there where we play really good football. We play mistake-free football, and we still had chances in that game to keep it close. What was it at halftime? 15-0, and we throw the interception right before half to give them the easy score. And plus we start the game off. We get the fumble after one of their drives. We've got the ball there inside of our inside of our 15-yard line, and we end up fumbling and getting a safety on a busted play. We're setting up a screen to the right. We've got 3 linemen and 2 guys downfield blocking, and Caden Mason's jumping up and down like, hey, I'm over here. And, we roll out to the left, and it's just not smart stuff. But, that's a guy that's played quarterback for 2 weeks, and, he hadn't had a full offseason working there. But, we had chances to make plays, but, we give them the 2 points right there. We got to kick the ball back off to them. We made the stops when we needed to, but when we would sit there and turn the ball over, give it right back to them on a short field. Once again, as this not good complementary football, when your defense is playing that well, just limiting their explosive plays and making them huddle up and making them run another play, but we couldn't capitalize on offense, whether we couldn't get the ball downfield. We did some good things in the run game, but once again, just not enough things came together. And then once we missed one tackle here or there, and it led to some of those bigger plays. And then I think in the second half we get the interception in the end zone, and it's a 2-score ball game. It was still 15-0 at that point, I believe. and then we get the interception, and then we throw the interception very next play, and I believe they score 2 plays later. So it's just not very good complimentary football. But like you said, we showed some good things. We just didn't show enough good things.
And coach, you look at this season, and I know it's not the results that we're wanting at 4-6, but you're probably, and I've heard you say this, you're probably 5 plays away from being 7-3.
Mhm.
And from what I saw Thursday night, your team is continuing to fight. And I don't know this team would have done that last year. And I see the fight, I see the want to in them, but at what point or what do you see as the hurdle that we've got to get to get them convinced, hey, we're a winning football team.
Yeah.
We're playing winning football. We just need to stand up and make a couple of plays here and there.
It's just a little confidence and maturity, goes a long way in character. And I know those are weird words, a lot of people associate with football. Normally you want, toughness, physicality, and violence. And, we need those things too. But when you can build confidence and when you can build maturity and you can kind of show your character, those other things kind of follow, because confidence is, if you lack confidence in your abilities, now you're lacking confidence in, your chances of success. So you want to try to build that confidence, and you build that confidence in little bitty wins. When little bitty wins can, accumulate to big wins. Like Friday night, if we would have put together a couple of first down drives, that confidence would have built, and then maybe got a little closer to the end zone and punched one in. But it's just confidence in what they're doing, and maturity is such a big thing too. Maturity of not letting your emotions take you over. And we tell our guys all the times, like, play the game emotionally. It's meant to be played emotionally, but don't let your emotions play you. And that's what we tell our guys is like, man, keep your head on straight. The stupid dead ball penalties, you don't need that. And we didn't have as many Friday night. So, that was a tick in the right direction. I believe we only had 4 penalties for 38 yards or something like that. So that was an improvement, but so a lot of times those penalties just come at the wrong time. Like we had a 3rd and 5, and we had a false start that led to a 3rd and 10, and we didn't convert. So that 3rd and 5 is a lot more manageable than a 3rd and 10. But that just maturity. So you got confidence and you got maturity of being able to get to the next play. If something goes wrong, don't freak out. Don't think the world is coming to an end or think, oh no, here we go again. Find a way to get to the next play. And that's what we told them all week. Because, it's like up to this point this year, when one thing went bad, we let things snowball on us. When you go back to the Westmoreland game, when you go back to the Cannon County game, we let bad things just snowball after the first time. And it usually was either a penalty or turnover here, and we just let it keep rolling down the hill. So our big emphasis this week or this past week was don't let things snowball on you. Find a way to get to the next play without freaking out. And that was a sign of maturity right there, is that we were able to get to the next play. We gave up a 15-yard run. Okay, line up, new set of downs, play again, and we got a tackle in the backfield. So that's just finding a way to get to the next play. That's that increase in maturity, the less penalties called on us, less mistakes in that regard. Now, still way too many mental mistakes with missed assignments, especially offensively, guys running the wrong route or just blocking the wrong guy, blocking the wrong rule, and how that goes. Uh, but defensively, I thought we did improve. We did good. We just way too many missed tackles. There would be times we hit the guy at the line of scrimmage, and he would bounce off of us, and then he would get to the outside, and we would miss a tackle or two, and what should have been a 1 yard gain would turn into a 12-yard gain or an 8 yard gain. But confidence, maturity, and just consistency. That's the biggest thing, is be more consistent. Like I said, we've not put 4 full quarters together. We'll put 1 quarter together. We'll put 2 quarters together. We'll put a first and a third quarter, and or a first and fourth, whatever. So those 3 things could really help us out. Just be able to find some confidence in us, get something going good, get something going early, and then keep that maturity level high, and just grow and develop, and then also just become more consistent. When you can do those 3 things, the whole be violent, be tough, and all that, be aggressive, that comes. When those three things fall into place, the other things will follow.
Yeah, and I'm looking at coach, and I'm watching the game, and here on TV, and you look at where you're right. You have the fumble, they get the safety, you kick it back to them, they score. But then right after that, you have a big kickoff return that gets you to your territory into
Yeah.
going to the 30-yard line, and then a penalty pushes you back. So it kind of knocked the winds out of the sails a little bit, as you can say. But I look at things like that. I mean, you're so close
Yeah.
about. And Jonathan said, being a 7-3 team. I mean, I can't wait to see these guys learn that they're good.
Yeah.
They are good football players. You got a good football team. They just got to know it mentally. But then,
Yeah.
I look at it, you look at your last drive of the game, you guys line up and you take the ball straight down the field, which is, I'm sure that's what you want to do all night long, and you score an easy touchdown. And that's the kind of drive that I want to see you guys put together consistently. And I'm sure you do too.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like you said, talent and potential. Those are two dangerous words, but we have a team full of talented football players with potential. But if potential and talent, either don't work hard or is not willing to work hard, or you know, just they're not willing to sacrifice to get to that next level, then those two words don't mean a hill of beans. So that's what we just got to realize. Like I said, that we are a talented team. We have full of potential, but we got to be willing to put that work. We got to be willing to pay the cost to be able to realize that full potential and that full talent and not let it go to waste. And we've got guys that want to do that, and we just got to get a few more guys that got to get off the fence and lead those guys that want to sit there and realize that talent and that potential. But yeah, it clicks at times, and then at other times, it doesn't, and you just want that more consistent nature of it for it to continue to click.
Well, and coach, looking coming up week one of the playoffs, you got Bledsoe County. What challenges do you see from them? What are they going to bring to the table? And how do you see this coming up this Friday night?
Their biggest thing, the biggest challenge they present is they run a old school wing T offense, very physical, very violent brand of football, but also very predictable. It's almost as old school Delaware wing T as can get. With the two backs in the backfield, the strong side wing back. Um, Everything off of either buck motion or belly motion, their pass game. You can predict it as much as anything. Is death and taxes are evident, and so is wing T football running a boot pass on third and long. But the biggest thing is they know they're predictable. They don't care. It's still you got to stop us. They're very similar to Gornsville. Gornsville runs a much different hybrid, wing T offense, kind of like us, where we're more spread wing T with those principles. But they're under center, two backs in the backfield, strong side wing. They're going to run belly. They're going to run GXB power trap. Then their pass game is going to be off of boot action, off of buck action. So they're and they get to the line very quick, so they don't just meander up there and allow a defense to kind of sift and look. They do that kind of sugar huddle where it's like they'll be 3 yards from the ball, they'll break and get to the ball fast. So they force you to line up quick, and you gotta just like we have to every week. We got to talk, we got to communicate, we have to convey to our defense that here are the things that they can do out of these formations in these situations. If it's uh, two backs in the backfield, wing to the tight end side, hey, you got buck sweep, you got power. If it's two backs in the backfield, slot to the weak side, you got a good dose of maybe counter or XB or ISO. Okay, if you get uh, one back in the backfield, slot and wing, get ready for trap. It's just so little things like that. That this is the only play that they can run out of that formation, out of that look. But it's not what we know. It's what we can get our guys to know through film study, through preparation throughout the week. That guys, this is the stuff on paper. Their tendencies of what they can run. So once our guys can realize that, they can now communicate that with each other on the field. So you're sitting there hollering, it's like, hey, two backs, two backs. Hey, watch power, watch power. Strong side wing. Just teaching our guys how to communicate with each other on the field. Where you can create that kind of that camaraderie of guys where they know what's coming and they have a better chance of defending it. So it's like if you know what the offense is running before they do, you got a better chance. But that's their biggest challenge is just how successful they are in running that style of offense. Defensively, They're very simple. They're going to be in their 4-3, their 40 kind of look. They're not going to give a bunch of different looks, a bunch of pressures or blitzes, but they're very sound in what they do. They play with their heels in the ground a whole lot on defense, just meaning that they're going to get lined up. They're going to be sound in what they do. They're not going to dictate what they do based off what you show on offense. And it goes to show how well coached they are on defense. But very simple scheme, but yet they're very good at it because that's what they run and that's what they're used to running.
And the good thing is here now, our first 10 games behind us, right? That's regular season means nothing now, right? So we
Yep.
moved over to where everybody's 0-0, right? We're starting a brand new
Mhm.
season. When it comes to you being a head coach and moving into the playoffs of week one, does anything change from you from what you've done in the regular season, moving into playoffs and getting ready to maybe go play for a gold ball?
The biggest thing is just maybe taking a little bit of wear and tear off of our guys. So and you usually start this around week 7 or week 8. Either going into a bye, coming out of a bye, getting ready for playoffs is like maybe have less fully padded practice days, go more shells, especially for like your two-way guys, where you try to take that beating off of their body because it's a long season. But that's about the only thing you really want to change is you want to be more fresh come Friday. You don't want to get yourself so beat up throughout the week as you have been throughout all season, especially us now. We've got some guys banged up. We got some guys out. So that's the biggest change we have transitioning from regular season into playoffs because we always tell our guys your best ability is availability. And you're not available if you're banged up and hurt and got this bang, that guy, which everybody's got bangs and bruises, but you want to be to your best ability come Friday. So we do scale back a little bit the full padded practices, but we still go shells, which is just like, shoulder pads, helmets, thigh pads, basically everything but your knee pad. And it's kind of a way of tricking your players into saying, like, hey, we're not in full gear. The only thing we don't have is that knee pad that's about that big.
Yeah,
And hey, if you watch that kicker from Dadgum,
yeah. Oh,
Oklahoma the other night.
Oklahoma.
we're in
I
it.
mean, his shorts were plumb up in his tail crack. So, and that's what the
Yeah,
guys want to play in anyway. But, and you could see his knee pads were up on his dead thigh. But that's basically what we wear coming playoff season, two days out of the week. Normally our Tuesdays and Wednesday practices, we go shells and we've got our shoulder pads on, we got our girdles on, which have the thigh pads and the butt pad and all that. Only thing we're missing is that little knee pad. And I mean, it don't do much anyway, but we still do a lot of the same stuff. We take out some of maybe a little bit of the individual stuff that we do, and we go more kind of group stuff and more team stuff because you want to go more team stuff because you're having to show formations, you're having to show tendencies, you're having to show situational stuff that you have on that team through 10 weeks of the season. So, you got more stuff to prepare for and you got more stuff to kind of dive into and dive through. Where by this point in the season, you're taking out some of that individual work. You're still working your individual like tackling drills. You're still working, your individual blocking drills, but you're maybe taking out some of those footwork drills or you're taking out some of those kind of pre-practice drills and you're doing more of that team centric stuff and group centric stuff that you can get ready for an opposing team on Friday night. But other than that, man, everything else still stays the same in your preparation. You're doing group stuff, team stuff, your special teams. You treat it all the same. But like you said, it's a brand new season. Records don't matter a hill of beans now. It don't matter if a team goes 0-10 or 10-0. You're still in that round one of the playoffs. I mean, you got teams in different classifications, like you got Red Bull who's 0-10. They're in the playoffs. Now they're playing South Pitt, but still they're in round one. Hey, freaky things happen.
yeah.
The Dagum Bubonic Plague could sweep through South Pitt right now or something and decimate them, and Red Bull will have a chance to win.
Yeah.
I think you've got a bunch of 1-9 teams out east. They're playing. You got York. York is what 1-9, 2-8, I
One
think.
in one
One
in
and nine,
nine.
yeah.
1-9, and they're in the first round of playoffs. And they're playing Gordonsville. Um, so you've got these teams that it don't matter what they did in regular season, they could go on a run. We always tell the story of Livingston 2005. They went 5-5 in the regular season, finished as a 4 seed in their region, and they ended up winning a state championship by beating David Lipscomb. So regular season records don't matter right now. The new season has started, everybody's record is 0-0. The seeding doesn't matter. None of that matters. It's out the window. It's 15 to 18-year-old kids against other 15 to 18-year-old kids. It's who's going to want it more, who's going to line up in front of the other guy, who's going to win those one-on-ones, and that's what you can count on come playoff time in high school football.
And Coach, you answered my question about the injury bug, but and I'm going to ask a question from the TWSAA perspective. We touched on it a little bit with the 1-9s, the 0-10s,
Mhm.
and would you like to see the classifications changed a little bit to where we're not seeing those 2-8, 1-9, 0-10 type teams get into the playoffs?
It's it's a double-edged sword when you start kind of doing that. One, you want to give as many teams a fair chance as possible. And I know I'm on both sides of the fence. You don't want, because I think already one team has already forfeited their first round game. I want to say it was like Columbia Central or Chattanooga Central, or it was a 1-9 team. They were going to play, I can't remember, someone out east, but they were slated to play somebody round one, and they forfeited that round one game. They said, we're 1-9, we don't have a chance of winning, and we're forfeiting. And you don't want to see that, but there are some really good, there are some really good 1-9 or 2-8 football teams that are better than some of the 8-2 teams that are maybe in just a really bad region. So you still want to give as many of those teams a fair shot as possible. But also, I get the other side. Like, man, it is watered down. You want to see less classifications. But regardless, we're not going to get that because it's too much of a moneymaker.
Right.
Okay. But then also, the landscape is so much different. I know you got a lot of people that are like, well, 30 years ago, we had 3 classifications, or 40 years ago, 3. We did it this way, that way. The landscape has changed
Yeah.
since then.
Oh yeah.
You've got teams who are openly recruiting. You got teams that are doing the NIL. You've got this one-time transfer. So it's just you've got some team. You got the haves and have-nots. And I know the purest form of the sport is you just got to be rough and tough and physical and play. But when you got some teams out there that have a lot more, they can attract other players.
Yeah.
Whereas the teams that don't have as much, they just playing with what they got, whether it's a different schedule. Then, some schools have strength and conditioning classes where their athletes get to lift 5 days a week throughout the year. Other schools don't get to do anything with their athletes during the day.
Yeah.
There's some schools where all their practices and all their weightlifting sessions have to be after 3 o'clock. Well, some parents look at that like, well, I would rather go have my kid go somewhere that they could do all that stuff during the day, whereas I don't want them to be practicing until 7 p.m. at night. So they'll move their kids. So there's a lot of variables. It's not black and white like it used to be anymore. And
You're right.
that's a good question. You're like, well, get off the fence, coach. You should have an answer, yes or no. It's like I see it from both sides.
Yeah.
Just
Right.
like you want to give as many teams a fair shot as possible at winning a state title, but also you got teams that, hey, you're 0-10, you're in the playoffs. Is that being rewarding? No. That's because they're in a 3-team region or a 4-team region and 4 teams go. Are
Right.
there some adjustments they can make? Probably. I don't have the answers to it because, at the same time, you just got some teams that recruit better than others, and at the end of the day, a lot of times it's Jimmy's and Joe's, and we're going to coach the players that we got to the best of our ability, and maybe we'll win some ball games. Other teams, they're bringing in a fresh batch of recruits from here, there, and everywhere to replace what they lose. You got a lot of schools now, they don't have a lot of homegrown talent. It's who they were able to suggest, like, hey, you need to come here. We got 2 or 3 good guys. Our booster club can get you this or that, and it'll be all under the table. And people want to say it don't happen, but it does. And I know I'm probably ranting about it, but it's just, it
It's
is what
okay.
it is at
Hey,
this point. It's different now than it was 30, 20, 40 years ago or whatever. It's not the same. And if someone says it is, then they're just lying or they won't admit that it is.
There's one thing about you, Coach. I wanted 100% honest answer with my
Yeah.
question, and I know I'm going to get that. It's even though it may be on the fence some, it's still
Yeah,
an honest answer at the end of the day.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
Coach, hey, we appreciate everything for this year. All 10 weeks you've been on with us this year. We appreciate it. Hey, I'm looking forward to Friday night. It's a new season. It's a new time for the Owls to go out and win and move on and get to that that echelon where you want to be to that go ball.
Yes, sir. Guys, I appreciate what y'all do for the program, the community, and all our sports teams. And hopefully, we'll be back on next Sunday, talking about a win. So that's the idea. That's the standard, and that's what we want to do.
Good luck, Coach.
Thanks,
Guys,
Coach.
appreciate y'all. See you.
Well, Coach Dyer, like he said, he's spot on, right? It's a new season. It's time for regular season don't matter anymore, right? It's time for the new season, the playoffs start, and no matter how bad or how good you played week 1 through 11, now it's time to transition to the playoffs, and now everything just starts over for you.
Well, and Michael, for me, we were at the Westmoreland game, and you think you watch that game, and they didn't play well. And at that point in time, the season can go one of two different directions. And for me, even though there were still some losses throughout the rest of the season, there was the tough loss against Cannon County. You still saw a lot of fight and a lot of kids that were playing hard. And it's like I said, they're probably 5 or 6 plays away from being 7-3, and even being really competitive against Cannon County. That it wasn't that they quit; it was just Cannon County. It was one of those nights. It was just like everything went right for them. But that you can see, or I have seen this year, different players that Coach Dyer's coaching and this coaching staff that you can see the light at the end of the tunnel, and there's a lot of talent moving forward. This year it is what it is, and let's see what we can get at Bledsoe County, and we take it 1 week at a time.
Yep, and good luck to the Tigers as well as York comes in. We ain't really talked about Gorns a lot tonight. We have a little bit, but you look at 1-9 York coming in. You're probably going to be a pretty easy win for those guys. But good luck to them as well. So we're going to swap gears here just for a second, and we're going to bring in Coach Nick Bassell. Coach Bassell, we appreciate you joining us tonight.
No problem. Glad
we're bringing in Coach Bassell tonight, and it's a special guest. Coach, what a tremendous year for you and your soccer team this year. I think I told you about 2 weeks ago, hey, get over that hurdle and get to the state playoffs. And you did that, right? So congratulations to you. Congratulations to your girls on what a great season.
Oh yeah, we've had it's been a whirlwind of a week. We've been, I feel like all over the country, but we've only been to Chattanooga, but we played 3 games in 1 week, and then we had to travel and get on a charter bus, and we got to make some stops throughout there, and it was great. It was a fun time and a lot of memories. Hate to be put out by the state champion, but you can't beat that, and all that. So it was a fun experience for everybody.
So, Coach, talk about your experience a little bit, and talk about maybe some of your seniors and some of your players that have been a part of this season.
So we've been trying, like Michael said, we've been trying to get over that hurdle. We've been here 4 times in that sectional game, and I always talk about I have probably had the roughest road to the state there ever was. You got to go through the gauntlet of Merle Hyde and some Nashville schools and some magnet schools. So this year we played Merle Hyde in our region, got runner up, and then we went to STEM Prep. And where the reclassification happened, it looked like an easier road because usually we were playing Liberty Creek, who moved up. In years past, we played in Signal Mountain, who was moving up. It seemed like every time we had a team that was able to make that step, we were playing someone who was either going to be the state champion that year or who was going to move up a classification the next. So it was sort of a disadvantage, you get a little frustrated, especially with that early on. But we graduated a huge part of our offense last year, the lead scorer of the program's history. So this summer we were sort of looking at ourselves, and I looked at the girls and I said, we're going to have to find some people to score. I felt pretty good defensively. When we went to camp at Lindsey Wilson, we looked really good defensively, but our offense wasn't clicking. And then all of a sudden, boom, hey, we're into games, and some people start stepping up. And throughout the year, we got better and better. And that was just great success from our coaching staff, our managers, and the kids just buying in and saying, They were not jealous of one another. They just wanted to succeed. They wanted to win ball games. And that was probably the best. We've had some really good groups of girls come through, but we became more balanced. It didn't, sometimes, somebody don't have a good night. And when you got somebody that can give you valuable minutes, or someone step up and say, "Hey, I'm gonna be the dog tonight," that's huge. And that's what finally got us over that hurdle. We went into overtime in that sectional game, and we were up the whole time. We were playing good, had some different looks. Probably should have scored some more, just couldn't find the back of the net. And we've been in those ball games, and then they score with a minute and a half left, and you could just see us sort of like took a deep, like it just shocked us a little bit. So we went into overtime. We got some adjustments made at the end of the game, and I finally just looked at him and said, "You've been in this situation before. Just take a deep breath, play through it." And they went out there and found a way to win, and they got a beautiful goal that came from Maddie and Julie Boker. I couldn't think of her name there for a second. And then we just enjoyed our moment, and we were celebrated on the bus. There's some videos, if you haven't seen it, that got me dancing on the bus, but I was pretty excited that game. And we were, it was just finally good to take that next step, and the girls before us and the girls that are going to come after, I'm just so glad that this group got to see that, because this group of seniors was great. They just came in ready to work every day. There was never jealousy. There was never this or that. And all my teams have been really good about not being like jealous of one another or drama or anything like that. But they really just wanted to work. They just wanted to get better every day. And that was special. And that's what got us there. It's what, took that next step is just, hey, we're just going to come work every day. And that's a good quality to have, and some you don't get in all those teams.
And I tell you what I don't know a lot about soccer, but I tell you what I like about soccer in our community is it's one team, one community, right? It's both schools put together in one, both high schools, Smith County and Gordonsville, playing together for one common goal is to win a state championship in something. And that's what I love about the soccer program in our community right now.
I couldn't ask for yes. And this year we were split even. We were 12-12. That's the first time I've ever had that many kids from Gordonsville. And we were split even down the middle. We had 24 girls on the team, and you would think that's pretty small for me. Usually I have about 30. So I was worried about that, but our quality of depth was better than it's ever been. And we didn't hit an injury bug. We had a few injuries towards the end, but not bad, because we had just that quality of depth. People really could just come in. Freshmen, sophomores could come in and give us valuable minutes, and they have all season. But yes, one of our mantras since I took over the program is one team. I hated and other teams I've been a part of and everything else, just this drama, and especially with girls, it's hard because it can just kill a team. So we really drive that in every year of being together, support each other. Yeah, you're at different schools, and last Friday night's prime example. You're going to wear your colors, we're going to wear our colors, have some fun, but when we're on the soccer field, we're just playing together. We're all buddies. We're a family, and that was one thing that that senior group really embraced was everybody has to get along. Everybody is supporting each other in whatever we're doing, and they really bought into that family aspect and the one team aspect that we really tried to. We put it on our team shirts every year. One team's across the back. We just really try to focus on that.
And Coach, looking at we got this year, which was great. Looking at next year, we're going to be at this in the same, maybe where we can get there.
Yeah, well, the funny question is, we went to Chattanooga. We stopped at Swanee University, beautiful campus. Actually, some of our Coach Jackson at Gordonsville, me and him talked, and Coach Clemens was like, "Hey, you need to stop on your way down." I said, "Yeah, I'm looking at some schools, some high schools," and he said, "No, go to Swanee. It's just a little bit out of your way. Just take a 20-minute detour. You're going to go down there the whole day." So I did. Coach Jackson helped me line it up with the football coach. Then I got in contact with the soccer coach, and it was great. The beautiful campus. Got to play on turf for about an hour. Got to stretch your legs and all that stuff. And we got down there. Of course, we didn't have the outcome we wanted. We held on to them for about 30 minutes. And then, we just, one thing, it sort of carried on, and they were the state champion this year, which shocked me. I thought Merle was a little bit better. But Westview had a good game plan. I watched that game. It was great. It was very smart. They played similar to how we played them early on. It's just, we don't have the quality depth that we need with last that. We're still working on that part. But go back to your question. Next year, I was sitting there the next day. I got up. Of course, we didn't get in till we were late. Got to school, and I look at my phone, and I got a coach saying, "Hey, you want to schedule a game?" And I'm like, "Man, I just got out of the quarterfinals of the state. Give me a day, I hadn't even thought about that. And I had two more text me Friday, and I was like, "Guys, wait till Monday. Give me just a second, let me breathe a second." But get back to your question. Our senior group was good. We had 4 starters. The other girl had a great amount of time. Like I said earlier, though, we're very balanced. We had kids that came in that were freshmen that if you would have told me in June and then in July when we were at camp at Lindsey Wilson, I was like, there ain't no way these kids are going to give us minutes and all that stuff. And they got huge minutes and some quality games. And what happened is somebody wasn't having a good game. We put them in and they're going. I mean, they're looking great. So we just kept them in. And so they got some valuable time. The biggest question mark for us is we relied on our defense a lot. Our defensive unit was senior heavy. We had some kids that got some serious time out of that, but that's going to be the question. But basically, our offense, we're replacing one kid. Now, she's a good one, but that was one of the positions that she got sort of hurt in at some games. So a lot of freshmen that got some quality time are just probably going to be fitting right into that. So I think so. I think we have the road to get there. It's just, you're going to be in some tough games. And sometimes you got to have a good day, and we had a good day this year, and it was great to see that.
Well, Coach, that's just a testament to you and your development process. And the last question for me, and Michael, I'm sorry I interrupted. The last question I have is, are we going to see a coaching class for dance coming up anytime?
For dance, probably not. I tell you what,
just for coaches only.
That's for coach. I would say this. Our bus driver is Mr. Darrell White, and he's the assistant principal at the high school at Gornsville. And before that, they started playing some music that was it was taking that a little bit over the edge, And I just said, "Hey, turn your eyes off, turn your ears off. Let's let them have a moment." He's like, "I agree with you. Just let them have a moment." And then they kept on and on. It sort of died down. And my wife was sitting there. She said, "They finally calmed down." I said, "Oh no, we ain't calming down." I said, "We're getting it back going." So I jumped up, and she's got a good video of me. But I can tell you right now, no dancing classes for me. Not. You don't want to see that, but hey, we got a good laugh out of it.
It's all that matters.
Well, Coach, look, congratulations to you. Like we talked, me and you talked about this quite a bit, but you got over that hurdle. You made that state that you wanted to, and the sky's the limit for you guys, right? You got a lot of underclassmen. You're coming back next year. The sky's the limit. So congratulations to you. Congratulations to the soccer program in this community as a whole. Congratulations and appreciate what you do with those girls and make them be one team.
Well, I appreciate that. And I wanted to say one more thing before y'all go on. Want to say a special thanks to my parents, my fans. We had a great support system this year. When we got that charter bus, we were trying to do that, and my parents took over. I was game planning everything else. I sort of put it in the hands of them, and they found the money and the support. And our community really supported us the whole way. We had a great time, made some memories that'll last a lifetime. But we're in the best community. We were supported so good from both sides of the river. It was just fantastic. It was, like you said, something special to see, especially when there's so much, back and forth, and our community supports each other. It's just those certain games that you can't do it. But with us, it's always special because we get to do that, and that's what's fun about it.
And that's awesome. And great job with the athletic department that you're doing. I mean, can't not say that too. So, kudos to you.
Well, I appreciate that. I go into work sometimes and I feel like I'm just putting out fires. And then some days I'm like, I feel like I got to be doing something. So I try to stay busy with that. But I'm going to say a special thanks on that part on to our coaches, for sure on that. We got some great coaches that do a great job, that go above and beyond, X's and O's and wins and losses. And that's what's great about it is, having good role models and good people that push them to that next level is great.
Well, Coach, we appreciate you coming on. We look forward to having you on again, hopefully next year when we go back to the state, even get a little bit farther next year. But congratulations once again, and thanks for coming on with us tonight.
Hey, thank y'all very much. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Coach.
And what a special program. And I'm being dead serious when I say that, Jonathan, about this soccer combines both Gordonsville and Smith County High Schools together into one. And that's something special. We talk about all the time that, a consolidation, stuff like that would probably never happen in this community. But those two teams are consolidated, and that builds one team, as he puts on his shirts. It does build one team, one community.
Yes. Yes, and hopefully, down the line, maybe there'll be other opportunities for other sports that we can do that with. It's such a great thing. And looking back, and I know I've harped on this and talked about this. You look at what you can get when you combine both, and it would be very successful. And again, I see both sides, but again, kudos to Coach Bissell, and again, great job.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate Coach Bissell, Coach Dyer, but Jonathan, we got to talk about college football for just a few minutes here before we get off the air. We look at college football, and we're in the midst of college football, right? The first college football playoff rankings come out Tuesday night. We're in the middle. We're in week 9 and week 10 of college football as well. And last night Tennessee goes in and brings Oklahoma down into Neyland Stadium and kind of lays an egg, if we're going to be honest about it, especially in the first half where you triple the yards of what Oklahoma has and you only get 10 points out of it. So looking at Tennessee, and they kind of knocked themselves out of the college football playoff. You'd have to have a lot of stuff happen for any chance for them to get back into that playoff, but they had chances to do that last night. And once again, we're looking at a 3-loss ACC team now that probably has no hopes of going there.
No, and it's very hard to look at the numbers at halftime and say, we're outgaining this team by 3 times, and we're trailing in this ball game, and very much and again, Coach Heupel has done this over the course of his tenure at Tennessee, where he lays an egg. You look at the South Carolina loss when they had Hendon Hooker. There's just been some head scratching losses. Of course, the turnover bug bit them last night. But again, you can't have that type of effort. And again, at the end of the day, I was upset about it, but I also looked at it from a standpoint of, well, I'm glad they went ahead and lost, because this is not a championship contending team. Maybe offensively they have the pieces to contend for a championship, but let's be honest, defensively they're a total wreck and a total mess.
Yeah, and but if you look at last night, defensively was probably one of their better games of the year.
Yeah.
Defensive last night, they really held Oklahoma to doing nothing in the first half, to less than 100 yards, 99 total yards of offense, and then still give up 16 points, right? Because Joey Aguilar had a really not typical performance in the first half for him that he's had this year. Now, the second half, he looked like typical Joey, who moved the ball down the field, who made plays with his legs and threw a couple of touchdown passes. But for him to throw 2 picks in the first half is just really uncharacteristic of how he's played all year long, when your defense is really keeping you in the game for the first time this year.
Well, and I sent you this message last night. The story of this 2025 Vol team is going to be self-inflicted wounds, missed opportunities, and third down defense. It's simple as that. If you clear up a few of those things, you look back at the Georgia game where all Max Gilbert has to do is kick a field goal. It's a huge missed opportunity. We're not talking about this. Last night he misses another field goal last night, and just again, several uncharacteristic penalties, and then third down defense, third down in banks is what I'm starting to call it. Is again, you have 3rd and 16 last night in the second half, and you get John Mateer scramble for 20 yards, and that's just unacceptable. And something has to change there. Again, when Banks came in, I was excited. I really liked Tim Banks as a defensive coordinator when he came in, but it's kind of he was on that high at that point in time, and he doesn't seem to have either the pieces aren't there or his philosophy needs a bump.
Yeah, and I really think now that Tennessee's out of the they're out. They had a 3% chance, according to the ESPN predictor, to making the playoff. But you look at Heupel probably make some changes on his staff starting next year, even right after season starts this year. And I think defensive coordinator is one of those position changes.
I completely agree. And again, let's look at the landscape of, who knows how and what happens. I mean, Tennessee goes out, you're still gonna have to play a really good Vanderbilt team, and you're going to play a really good Florida team that played Georgia really tough.
Yeah.
You got New Mexico State in 2 weeks. You're probably going to walk them.
Yeah.
But let's say a few things happen and you end those season on 2 losses. That seat for Josh Heupel is going to get extremely hot, extremely quick.
And you look at it, Tennessee had it set up yesterday. 8, 9, and 12 all get beat last night. Or 8, 9, and 10. I'm sorry, 8, 9, and 10 all lose last night. And Tennessee sitting at 14 could easily get into that top 12 into the first college football playoff rankings this week. And then you kind of just crap the bed in so many words, right?
Absolutely. That's 100% not the word I would use, but that's exactly what you done last night in Knoxville with an opportunity to have another. Again, I don't know how far they would have made it in the playoffs without some major upgrades defensively, but it was all in front of you. And like you said, you crap the bed.
Yeah, and you look at Vanderbilt goes down to Texas and gets beat there. I mean, it looked like Texas was going to run away with that game pretty easily. Then Vanderbilt kind of brings it back there in the second half because it looked like Texas kind of took off the throttle a little bit there in the second half. But Vanderbilt almost makes that a game. I missed onside.
They make it a game.
They missed onside kick, and you got a chance to go down and tie the game going to overtime.
Yeah, they scored 21 points in the fourth quarter and have an opportunity. When you watch that onside kick, that ball is on the ground for a while. You pick that up, all you got to do is complete maybe one pass and you're in field goal range.
But I go back to it, and I stick to my guns on this. I'm not in Diego mania. A lot of people are in the Pavia mania, and he's this. I'm not in that boat with him. I think he's really arrogant. I really think it showed yesterday when he plays against a really better defense that he struggles. I think he struggled yesterday against Texas. I'm not in the Diego Pavia boat like some people are.
And I'm not either. But again, I'm going to give him his credit. He didn't quit.
He didn't quit.
That was the one thing about Vanderbilt. You look at that game and it's what, 30, 31, 10, and they didn't stop. They didn't quit fighting. And, to touch on a couple of other teams, I'm going to give kudos to Tennessee Tech.
Yeah.
They're still undefeated.
They
beat Gardner-Webb yesterday, 27-21.
Yeah.
Our Cumberland University in Lebanon, they beat the University of the Cumberlands out of Kentucky 40-37. And then, of course, Maryville College with a couple of local kids, they beat Rhodes 42-22. And I believe they're 7-1 on the season. So there's as heartbreaking as Tennessee was for us, there's still some good football being played within a 30 to 50-mile radius.
Yeah, and I look forward to reaching out to Bryce Curry and maybe Javi Gaspar and have them come on the show and talk about their college experience down there at Maryville College, which is pretty cool, right, for local boys to be able to do that. But anyway, Jonathan, once again, we're over time. We want to get off here, but hey, we appreciate everything that everybody does for us. We want to thank our sponsors. Once again, our title sponsor is Kobe McKinney with Underwood Realty. Go see Kobe for all your realty needs.
Hashtag Hollies and be the gift for our Player of the Week segment.
And Infinity Promotions for our backdrop and our banners and our tablecloth. Any apparel that you need, any specialized apparel, go talk to Infinity Promotions.
And Anthony Hackett with Farm Bureau Insurance for sponsoring our coaches segment.
So from the Dugout Dads, where our skills are questionable,
but our spirit is unstoppable.
Until next time.